you will need to set any axis home position if you have changed an encoder cable, a servo drive, or you have had a crash where the motor and the ball screw's coupling has slipped, or maybe you installed a new ball screw or a new motor. You will need to reset the home position. To set the Z1 axis home position. And to do that, the home position for the Z1 axis is all the way towards the bar feeder. There is an arrow on the bottom of the casting that lines up with the back of the carrier on the main spindle. So I usually try to jog the axis and get it as close as possible. Don't want to go past the arrow, so I put it in Z1 jog, and I will jog the axis until I'm close. Once I'm close, I can hit the E-stop. That de-energizes the motor, the Z1 motor. That allows me to put it on the position page. I can see on the machine position, I'm going to the end of the ball screw. I bottom it out, hit the end of the ball screw by hand, doesn't ruin anything. I will now origin that out. I hit the OPRT, origin, all axis. My relative W, which is the Z-axis, is now 0. I will bring that forward 100 to 120,000 off the end of the ball screw. I'm at about 115. Perfect. I will now put it in MDI, hit the offset button 2 times until I see the setting handy. Parameter right, enable, 1 input, go to system, parameter 1815, number search, highlight the Z-axis, APZ, make that a 0, input. The screen tells me power must be off. On a 31 and 32 eye control, you don't need to power off right now. You can go back, hit the system button, back to parameter 1815, Z-axis, APZ. Right now it's a 0, put a 1 in there. Go back to the offset, turn parameter right, enable off, 0 input, now power down, power back up. Once it's powered back up, I usually like to jog away a couple inches, and then I will call up the G28W0 and MDI, and it will bring that Z1 axis to its home position. Look at your arrow, see if it's lined up with the back of the carrier of the main spindle, and you should be good. Now we're going to set the Z2 home position, which is up by the ejector end of the ball screw for the Z2 axis. I will first jog that axis to where it's fairly close to its home position. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the E-stop, lift up on the apron where the ball screw is, put on the position page, make sure it's on all axis. You want to see the machine position and the relative. Back it up until you over travel, go back to the position page. It has over travel, hit this OPRT, origin, all axis. The W for the Z axis will be zeroed out. Bring it forward 100 to 120,000. That'll be a good place to set the home position. Okay, now the Z axis, I have it set at 114. I first went to the end of the ball screw, brought it forward 114,000. So between 100 and 120, I'm at 114. I'll hit the offset setting page, get to the setting handy, parameter right, enable, 1 input, make sure MDI is on, hit the system button. I will go to parameter 1815, number search. On the Z axis, cursor down to Z, over to APZ. Go 0 input, Now the control tells me I must power down the machine. The 3132 control, you can go right back, hit System, and that'll bring you back to 1815 on MDI, 1 input. Now you can power down the machine. Well, first I'll go back and turn parameter right enable off, which is offset, setting handy, parameter right enable, 0 input. And then power the machine down, power it back up. Once that comes back up the machine, it takes a half a minute. We can jog it forward and call up G28 W0, and it will go to its new home position. The machine position will say 0, and we can now jog it all the way in the plus direction and in the minus direction, and we should see a soft thermal overload, and that'll show us that our stroke settings are set correctly and our home position for Z2 axis is good. Okay, now that it's back up, I'll jog it forward. Z2, jog. When you're bringing the Z-axis forward, you have to pay attention where the Y-axis is so you don't run into your tool block. Now that I moved the Y1 up, back to the Z2, I can bring it forward. Okay, all the way forward I have the soft over limit, and now I can go all the way back. Once it's all the way back, we'll see we're in the plus and now the minus for the Z-axis. On the back side has a soft over travel. Our Z2 home position is now set. Okay, now we're going to set the X2 home position, origin position. What I'm going to do first is I put a collet in the guide bushing in a gauge pin. Good ground bar stock would do the job if you have it already set up with the ground stock to check your home position, origin position. I have a collet with a gauge pin, a little bit better setup like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first put the X2 axis on its 0 for the machine position, origin position, and then we'll go and check it. So I'm on the back side of the display. I'm going to go G28, and now I'm going to use U0. U is for the X-axis. And I got dry run on. The axis is moving. It's going to its 0 position on machine. Now that it's there, I will jog Z2 forward. And I'm going to go over the top of that gauge pin. Once I go over the top of the gauge pin, I have a mirror. I can sweep around that gauge pin with my indicator. All right, I'm over the gauge pin. I'm going to put it on the low setting, jog for the X2. And I'm going to check my indicator, making it 0, top and bottom first, I like to do. Once it's there, then I will go on the side, and I'll bring that indicator reading to 0. Okay. Now I'm 0 all the way around with my indicator. That is my home position, my origin position. I will now go in MDI, hit the offset setting page, turn on parameter right enable, 1 input, hit the system button, parameter 1815, number search. Make sure you're on the backside display for your X2, otherwise you'll be changing X1, that'll be the wrong one. So we're on backside of the display. Cursor over on the X-axis to APZ. 0 input. It tells me to power down the machine. You don't have to with the 3132 control. Go back to System, APZ, 1 input. Go back to your parameter right enable on the setting handy page, 0 input. And now you can power down and power back up with the machine. Once it comes back up, what I'll do is go with a G28U0 and the block cycle start, and that'll, on the machine position, we'll see it say go right to 0, and then recheck it with our indicator, go around that gauge pin. If you got nice 0 all the way around, we're going to be good for the home position. So it's coming back up right now. I'll put it in MDI, program, and I'll say G28, U0, end the block, turn the feed rate override down on dry run, cycle start, look at your machine position. On the position page, it says 0. Double check your indicator reading, going around. Looks good. Your X2 home position is now set. Origin position is good on X2 axis. We have a collet and an indicator in the subspindle. We're going to be picking up tool pocket T25, and how I know T25 is used is in the tool fix data page down on T25. It is 0. The other pockets have a number in it. So what I want to do first is put the X2 axis, which we've already picked up the origin position, put it on 0. I will put it in MDI, back, program, call up the G28, G28U0, end the block, cycle start. You'll see the X2 axis go on its home position, origin position, and then I'll go on the main side and call up T25, 25. You need to call that one up with the offset. So T25, 25, and the block. I'll also add an X0, and that'll move both the Y1 and the X1 at the same time. Call it up. X is coming over, Y is going down, lining up tool pocket 25 on the center line. Once it's there, now the subspindle and the guide bushing and that tool pocket are in center line. We are going to make it where X1 is right on the money, so I'm going to jog Z2 forward, bringing that indicator into that T25 pocket. I usually bring it in around the middle. I'll take my mirror. I've already done Y1, so I'm just double checking that and making a 0 reading on my indicator. That's good. Now I'll put it on the X, and it's just off a half a thousand. So I'm going to put it on jog. You can use your handle also. X1, fine tune it, double check. Front to back with the indicator, we want to set it to 0. Okay, now what you want to do is on the position page, look at your relative. That's the amount that you had to move it to make it 0. It shows a minus. I got just about a minus 3/10. Remember that number, write it down. Jog the Z2 out. You jog the Z2 out, put it on MDI, program, main side. We need to send the X1 axis to its home position because the center of the slide, the gang slide, to the guide bushing is the home position. We will move it from there the amount that it is off. So I call up G28U0, end the block, input, cycle start. Okay, so the X1 axis is now going to its home position. You can hand wheel it, or you put your feed rate override down and move the amount that you're off on the X1. And it was about -3/10. Good. Now that it's there, MDI, main side, because you're doing the X1, turn on your parameter right enable, one input. System button, parameter 1815, number search. Go over on the X-axis, APZ, 0 input. Hit the system back, because on the 3132 control, you can go back and turn your APZ back on, a 1 input on the X-axis. Go to offset, settings handy, turn your parameter right off, disable it, power down, power back up. Once it powers back up, what we want to do is recall up our subside, our X2. Anytime you de-energize the motors, you must call up that X2 axis, put it back on its home position, and then we're going to actually call up your T25, 25 pocket, X0, and then go back in with the indicator, resweep it, double check that you have a 0 reading all the way around, and your X1 home position will be set. So it's just come back up. I'll put it in MDI backside program G28 U0 and the block. G28 U0 and the block. Cycle start. X2 axis, if I look at my position page, all, X2 is at 0. Main side, program, call up T2525, X0, and the block. Cycle start. Tool pocket 25 is coming in line with the indicator. Now I can put jog, the Z2, bring that in. And I didn't move my indicator, so it goes right on nice. Check your reading up and down, top, bottom. That's 0. I look at the side, 0. Check it on the back side. We're all within 1/10 all the way around. You have now set the X1 home position. Okay, now we want to set the Y1 home position. To set the Y1 home position, I have a collet and an indicator in the subspindle. I'm going to use that to sweep the tool pocket 25, T25 on the X1, Y1 slide. T25 is the home position for Y1 and X1. We're going to set the Y1 home position right now. How I know that pocket is home position, I go to the fixed data page. T25 is 0. The other tooling have a number in it, so tool 25 on the Y1, when it shows that 0, is the home position for the Y1 axis. I will first put the subspindle X2 on its home position. We've already picked that up, and I can now use that to pick up that Y1 position. MDI backside program G28 U0 and the block input. Cycle start. I have now put the subspindle on center line with the guide bushing. I will call up on the main side T2525 X0 and the block. Cycle start. That'll bring my tool pocket 25 on center line with the guide bushing and the subspindle. I can now jog the Z2 axis into that bore. I go around the middle of that bore with my indicator. I will sweep around, making it 0 up and down. Okay, set 0 on the bottom. Off of just a 2/3 on the top. You can use your hand wheel or jog. Use my jog on the Y. I just moved it. Check again. 0 on the bottom, 0 on the top. Now I need to, for this Y1 axis, I need to go MDI, offset setting, turn on your parameter right enable, one input. System, main side, make sure you change your main side. If you do the back side, you'll change the Y2, and we're doing the Y1. Parameter 1815, number search. Cursor down to the Y, APZ. APZ has a 1 in it right now. We need to make it a 0 input. Once you do that, it'll tell you power must be off. A 3132 control, you can go back right to the parameter 1815, Y, APZ. It has a 0 now. We can go back and just put a 1 in it. Turn off your parameter right enable, 0 input. Power down the machine, power it back up. Once the machine is powered back up, I will call that tool pocket up again. I will first put the sub spindle X2 on its home position, so that way I can use that indicator again and sweep around that tool pocket. It's almost powered up here. I'll go into MDI. Still powering up. Okay. Now that it's powered up, I got MDI, backside, program, G28, U0, and the block, cycle start. X2 axis, if I look at machine position all, now says 0. I can now go to the main side program, call up T25, 25, X0, and the block, input, cycle start. That'll put that pocket back right on the center line, position page. If you look at the relative, it says 0 for the U and the V. U is for X-axis, V is for the Y-axis. I sweep around the pocket, top and bottom is what I'm concerned about. 0 and 0. And the front and the back actually look nice too. We're within 1/2 all the way around. That is how we set the Y1 axis home position. Okay, now we want to set the Y2 origin position. We're going to use, again, the sub spindle. We have picked up the X2 home position, so we can now use the sub spindle with an indicator and a collet in the sub spindle and come over to T35 on the Y2 axis and sweep that position for the home position. How do I know that the T35 is the home position? I went into the T-fix data, and T35 has a 0 in the Y2. So now we will use that as the home position. All the other ones have a number in it. I will call up using the sub spindle. We'll go on the back side. I will call up T3500 and the block, cycle start. We'll come out in front of the T35. I will jog Z2 in. I will set my 0. I usually like to check the top and bottom first. Then I will check front and back. Okay, looks like we're really pretty close. I'm going to lower it down on the jog, the feed rate override. You can use your handle. Move the Y2, make your small adjustment. Once it's set, position all axis on the Y. We barely moved it 2/10. I'll double check it here. That looks good. So now what I'm going to do is MDI, offset settings, go and turn your parameter right enable on, one input. We're on the back side because we're setting the Y2 axis. Need to hit system, 1815 is the parameter. Number search. Cursor down to the Y on the back side. APZ, 0 input. Tells us to shut the power off, but again, the 3132 control, you can go right back to the APZ and make it a 1 input. Offset setting, disable your parameter right, 0 input, power down, power back up. Once it powers back up, I will call back up that tool pocket, T3500. I will recheck that using my indicator and mirror and verify that it is still at 0. After you pick up that home position, then you can go back and pick up the next tool pockets. And that's later on. Okay, I'm back up, MDI, backside, T3500, and the block input. Cycle start. There, it has finished. I will sweep it. Top and bottom is what we want to be nice right at this moment. 0. And we're within 2/10. We have now set the Y2 origin position.